These are conspiracy theories that I'm too scared to believe. We've talked a lot about Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, and all of the things that Candace Owens has been saying about how his assassination just simply doesn't add up and how she blames the Trump administration, the US government, the Israeli government. Honestly, her blame goes everywhere except for Tyler Robinson, who was the person arrested. She claims he did not do it. And she also claims that she's talked to multiple people in his family who claim that he has never even been to the UVU campus. So we've talked about that. I found it to be a very interesting conspiracy theory, but recently Candace Owens made a video about how she believes that her and Charlie had handlers. And yes, this is like the celebrity handlers theory that a lot of people think that various celebrities like Britney Spears, Kanye West, Justin Bieber have handlers. And it kind of goes darker because a lot of times people think that the handlers are actually their spouses, which in the case of Charlie Kirk, a lot of people think that Erica Kirk was his handler.
I believe, and I'm saying this retrospectively, that from that moment onward, Charlie and I were assigned handlers. Okay, this is an expression that Kanye used to say, have a handler. I thought that he was just saying that. I thought that he was referring to just Hollywood. I now very much believe that I have had handlers since 2018. And that things were done intentionally to pull me and Charlie apart. Now, I'm going to tell you how I remember it in no particular order, okay? I tweeted back at Kanye and I said, please take a meeting with us. And before I could hear directly from Kanye's people, I heard from David Horowitz. You should also know that he is the father to Andreessen Horowitz, the one that Bibi Netanyahu is insisting should, or the stepfather to. He wants Andreessen Horowitz to be a part of this group that buys TikTok.
TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential.
At the time, Charlie and I, we were pro-Israel. That's, I think, kind of relevant. And we were just so amazed by the tweet that we thought all of these people, like this was just our moment, as in they really did just want to help. Another player in this was Rick Rubin. Yeah, the big music industry, Rick Rubin, also got into the mix and wanted to facilitate certain meetings. I took it, again, as a sign of help. And it feels like at every moment there were forces that were trying to tell us this is not allowed to happen. Someone, and I believe it was someone at BuzzFeed, cut a clip. Again, I was green, so I didn't understand why suddenly they were sharing a clip and they were saying that I was justifying Hitler, Adolf Hitler, killing Jews. It was heavy. It was so heavy. And I laugh in retrospect because I thought it was all real. I didn't realize this was a matrix of people who wanted to pull me and Charlie apart. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to put pressure on him. And this amazing thing happened that despite this, that the hand that came out to me and offered me a job was PragerU. PragerU offered me a job. This is early 2019. And it was like, hey, like, we know that you don't believe these things. And at the time I thought they were just being friends. I don't know what to think anymore. Marissa Straight, the CEO, has never shied from telling people that she is, in the IDF. She worked intelligence in the IDF, right, in Israel. Almost the way it feels to me was like, we can save you, but here's what you have to do, was Marissa took me to the Simon Wiesenthal Center. And again, I was so grateful. I was like, who do I have to say sorry to so that they know that I don't hate Jews? This is what happened. I'm telling you, this is what happened in 2019. And there was like some chief rabbi looking character, and him and her spoke in Hebrew. I didn't understand a word of what was said in front of me. And then we left and everything was fine. My reputation was restored temporarily.
So Candace Owens is basically saying that she believed that her and Charlie had handlers and people that were kind of steering them in certain directions to do certain things. A lot of people have come to the conclusion and conspiracy theory that Erica Kirk was Charlie's handler. And a lot of those comments as well say that Candace Owens' husband is her handler. I personally have not researched into Candace Owens' husband. I've barely researched into her. She honestly was just someone who annoyed the shit out of me. But recently she's been talking about things with Charlie Kirk's death that I agree with. I do think there is a conspiracy side of this. And I don't know about the whole handlers theory. I don't know if that's accurate. I've always believed that celebrities do have handlers and that they have people who are directing them everywhere they need to go and in specific ways and like it's kind of just like a PR team in general, but a little bit more serious than that. And this wouldn't be a first time that like somebody's spouse was accused of being the celebrity's handler, because that is the case with Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber. So many people talk about the conspiracy theory that Hailey is Justin's handler, and they're like not really romantically married, and that's why Justin seems to like push Hailey off of him and is just like not lovey-dovey vibes. And it's all because Hailey is actually his handler and the one controlling the decisions that he makes behind the scenes. I don't know if I believe that, but I do think it's an interesting theory. And again, I do think it's interesting that Candace Owens is claiming that her and Charlie Kirk have maybe had handlers. I don't know. The next thing I want to talk about in an update to Charlie Kirk is that the gun used in his assassination was not the gun that Tyler Robinson owned.
Charlie's neck indeed did stop the bullet, without question, okay? And this is going to dispel a lot of theories that are out there, and I'm telling you this 100%. Charlie Kirk was shot from the front, and the bullet did not exit, and at least a fragment of the bullet was recovered from his neck. And I'm going to tell you exactly where it was recovered from. I have fact-checked this information from multiple sources now. I've actually been sitting on this for a little bit over a week. Right around here. So think about almost in line with your shoulder blade right in the center. Now, why is that helpful? Because it gives us a bullet trajectory, okay? It went in here where you saw that, and it was stopped, and a fragment was pulled from, think right, if you're just touching your spine in line with your shoulder blade. That leads us obviously to the part that he's maybe not being forthcoming about. They did not recover a bullet from a 30-06. They didn't recover a bullet from a 30-06. It just didn't happen, okay? If it found a 30-06 bullet, Charlie's death certificate certainly would have reflected that. In suicide situations, as just one example, medical examiners, feel free to chime in. I've spoken to quite a few, but when the gun and the bullet are known, they are reflected onto the death certificate, okay? There is not one reflected onto Charlie Kirk's death certificate because they did not recover a bullet from a 30-06. Hunters and military men rejoice. It turns out that common sense still rules the roost, okay? You guys were right. You were absolutely right. And this is why I hate politics, because it requires us to submit to the idea that we were all somehow born yesterday. It means that he was shot with a completely different kind of gun, obviously, okay? The kind where this would make sense, that it didn't cut through him. The kind where it would make sense that outside of an artery effectively exploding from the front, there was, his neck didn't explode, which that particular weapon that they were trying to tell us Charlie was killed with would have gone through about 7 necks. There were people who were insisting, by the way, that were on the ground, the witnesses that were insisting that they heard multiple shots. It's another element of this.
So I don't know much about ballistics, but there are people that do, that claim that it is impossible for Charlie Kirk to have been shot with the gun that is claimed to be the weapon that was used by Tyler Robinson at the UVU campus. I don't know. Again, I'm not really sure on this, but Candace Owens being like, I 100% can say, and I will agree, I do think that it's weird that there are so many people who are professionals and work with guns professionally and basically say that it would be impossible for this bullet to not completely go through him. And I just think it adds a lot to the conspiracy theory overall that Tyler Robinson was either not the only assassin or not even an assassin at all, and maybe not even on the UVU campus. I don't know. This theory, like whenever I talk about this theory, it genuinely freaks me out a lot because of what it would mean if this were true. But it was really a plan from the government, the Trump administration, the Illuminati, I don't know, whoever you want to call it. Candace Owens claims the Israeli government, Bibi Netanyahu. Like, if that's true, it just opens so many wormholes and doors for different conspiracy theories that we've talked about so many different times across the board. Conspiracy theories about different assassinations that may have not been all that it seems. And I do think that that is a very terrifying thought. I feel like every conspiracy theory is low-key fair game when it comes to the government at that point, right? Like, what do you mean? So I hate that. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I feel like this information was very interesting, and I honestly think more people should be talking about it. I feel like I see a lot of people going back and forth because obviously I'm someone who's never agreed with Candace Owens in general, and a lot of people are calling her crazy, but now I feel like the people that are calling her crazy are the people on the right that used to be like her friend and used to love her. So I don't know. I just feel like anytime a Republican like goes against what other Republicans are saying, it's like they get discredited by their entire party. So honestly, I don't fucking know. But I want to hear what you guys think here, because I feel like, again, I really think that she would have been sued, or Erica Kirk would have been like, stop talking about this if it wasn't true. Sorry. That's what I believe, but I want to hear your thoughts. The next theory I want to talk about has to do with one of the craziest, like, true crime, we don't even know what the hell happened, cases to this little boy who disappeared and then returned 2 days later, and a lot of people think that it's not him who came back, if that makes sense. So basically, this is about this 3-year-old Ryker Webb who went missing for 2 days and then was found alone, and this photo was viral of him, like the comparison of him before and him after, like in the ambulance. The insane shell shock in his eyes scared the hell out of people and led people to believe conspiracy theories that this is not Ryker Webb. And I don't know if I necessarily believe that. We're going to talk about that in a second, but what I do think is, regardless, there is something weird about this case. So on Friday, June 3rd of 2022, 3-year-old Ryker Webb was allegedly playing outside on his yard with his family dog, and his dad was allegedly out there as well, but then he went inside for like a second. Again, he's 3 years old. I feel like you can't leave your 3-year-old alone for like a second outside, but it was a small town. I guess it was seen as safe. So nonetheless, that's the story that the father gave, is that he left for a second to like go get something, and then when he came back, Ryker was gone. I would like to say a search began immediately, but for some reason it took 2 hours to contact the police, which is bonkers to me. I mean, a lot of people say like maybe they thought that he went to a neighbor's house and so they were just going to all the neighbors and searching for him, but I just think that makes no sense, because again, 3 years old is so small. Like, that is just something you automatically want to like alert, because a 3-year-old kid obviously being by themselves is very dangerous. The search went unsuccessful, and that night a huge thunderstorm rolled in, temperatures dropped, it was very, very cold, and a lot of people thought the odds of Ryker being found alive were slim to none. And that was until 2 days later, on Sunday, June 5th, when a couple heard a small voice coming from their shed. They thought it was an animal or something, and they found Ryker curled up in the corner inside of a lawnmower bag, and he was just dirty, cold, and shivering, but ultimately okay. So he was found 2.4 miles away from his house, and there's no explanation as to what happened to him. Okay, first of all, he was found in a different outfit. He was found in different clothes than what the parents claim that he was wearing when he went missing. A lot of people have different theories on that, whether somebody kidnapped him and then left him in the shed for some reason, or other people who think that he wandered off and somehow at 3 years old walked for 2.5 miles and was like smart enough to be like crawling in a shed and not eating food or drinking water. Like, I just can't even imagine, like, the thought of him doing this all on his own just seems so unrealistic to me. But nonetheless, some people think that like somebody kidnapped him and therefore that's why he had different clothes on. Other people think that maybe his family was just like in shock and didn't remember what he was wearing. But again, neither really add up perfectly here. Like, nothing really makes sense. So ever since Ryker was found, this photo of him went completely viral. Everyone was saying one of two things. People were either just talking about how scared the kid looked and how he must have been through something horrible. I mean, obviously he was alone for 2 days, not eating food or drinking any water, and in the cold and in a storm, like, obviously he's gonna be shell-shocked. But a lot of other people went the kind of conspiratorial route and started believing that that is not Ryker. So this made the conversation kind of shift. If that's not Ryker, then what is that? Who came back? Who is that? And there are a lot of different theories as to what that is, and I just think it's kind of interesting, but I don't know if I necessarily believe it. But a lot of people think that Ryker Webb was replaced with a skinwalker. I don't like that. I don't like that. So for anyone who's like unfamiliar, a skinwalker is folklore basically that's said to be a shapeshifter of sorts, often a malevolent entity like a dark spirit that basically can assume any human or animal form. Like some people think that like the uncanny valley pictures are people that are skinwalkers. I don't know. Either way, it scares me and it's something I don't like to research much, but it's basically the idea of a creature wearing the face of someone. And honestly, this is one of the oldest tales of folklore. So in this theory, people think that something otherworldly like a demon or something terrible found Ryker in the woods. Maybe it lured him away and maybe it was watching him. But when rescuers found a child 2 days later, it wasn't Ryker. It was someone pretending to be him. Don't like it. Don't like it. So a skinwalker, according to legend, can always mimic human behaviors, but never perfectly. Like there's always something just a little off. And to me, what I think is interesting is the fact that the parents did have a DNA test done on Ryker. Like, wouldn't you know that that's your kid? I just think that's strange. I think that would be a very weird like standard to do. Like he was only missing for 2 days. It's not like he's gonna look or supposed to be looking completely different. He's supposed to be a regular kid that his parents should know what they look like. Like, I don't know why he had a DNA test to prove it was him. But that honestly kind of makes me a little bit more suspicious because I'm like, did they not even think it was their son? And were the DNA tests messed with or lied? I don't know. Like, I can't even lie. I'd be scared of that kid. Which is kind of mean, but like I would. He looked so scary. And honestly, like his brother was like allegedly posting TikToks of him. And in the TikToks, he looks still like the shell-shocked version of him. Like he doesn't look ever like his old self. And that's led a lot of people to believe that this is not the same kid. I mean, he's only 3 years old. So it is interesting because we obviously don't know what happened to him during those 2 days that he was missing. And it's very scary to think about, but a lot of people have been going a little bit of a supernatural route. I don't know if I believe it, but I think it's interesting. Honestly, it's kind of reminding me of Stranger Things. Like, what if this kid was being observed by the government? This is very tinfoil hat vibes, okay? But what if this kid was like being observed by the government and had special powers maybe or something, and he was replaced with a body double, like how in Stranger Things when Will went missing, they just like had his body show up in the lake so that people would just assume he was dead and move on when really he was trapped in the upside down, because obviously they had created the upside down and running these experiments on Eleven and other children who with supernatural abilities. So what if it was something like that? Like what if Ryker was needed by the government for something? Or what if he just saw too much? Or what if he succumbed to one of these supernatural beings and the government covered it up? I don't know. Again, very tinfoil hat, but I think it's interesting. And I've always thought that that concept from Stranger Things was really interesting because even though Stranger Things obviously is fiction, we have to know that it was based in some sort of reality. It's based loosely on the Montauk Project. So I think it's important to kind of look at the aspects of Stranger Things and take into consideration that some of it could have truth to it, you know? But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. The next theory I'm too scared to believe is definitely the idea that our phones, our cameras, are always on recording and listening to us. Honestly, this is like not even a conspiracy theory, but I have to label it as such because otherwise I will go insane. Like I will. If I think about this too hard, I genuinely freak out. So I just like to pretend that it's not real. And is that delusional? Yes. But do I do it? Yes. But I unfortunately full-heartedly believe that the government is always listening through our phone cameras, our webcams, etc. Like the whole FBI agent theory, I think has layers of truth to it. Do I think every single person is assigned a specific FBI agent? No. But I do think our computers and phones pick up keywords, whether it's because of advertising, which I think is a whole different concept and very creepy on its own, but a little bit less scary than like government stuff. But I do think obviously we've all experienced like someone talking about something and then seeing an ad for it like the next day. That's always crazy when that happens. But the theory that the government is always listening on our phones and wants to make sure that people are not talking about things that they shouldn't be, I think is true. I do think that this is happening and I don't like it. And again, it's something that like when I go to bed at night, I just pretend doesn't exist because otherwise I wouldn't be able to frickin' sleep, okay? While there have been several phone companies and internet companies that claim that they do not collect any data from your cameras or your microphone, A lot of people just have had evidence that this is not true. There have been so many instances of people basically proving that this theory is real. And there has been some like anecdotal proof of people's like phones listening to them or their cameras being on when they shouldn't be and recording when they shouldn't be. And I just think that's fucking terrifying, okay? It's scary and I don't like it. But I'm assuming this is something you guys all believe as well. But I want to know if you've ever had any personal experiences with it. Honestly, I feel like if that happened to me, I mean, it has for sure with advertisements where someone will say something to me in person and then I will see an ad for it like the next day. I hate when that happens, but again, I just ignore it because again, otherwise I would be unwell. So let us know your personal experiences there. All right, the next theory that has always freaked me out. I'm talking since I was a child. I don't know if this is just because I had undiagnosed OCD as a kid, but I genuinely believed in quantum immortality. I mean, I wasn't calling it that as a child, but there are so many different conspiracy theories about like life as a simulation, parallel universes that I thought of as a child on my own, like just thought that I was the only person thinking these things, especially like NPCs. I always used to cry and beg my parents to tell me if they were robots and if they like turned off when I wasn't looking at them. I don't know why I was so scared of that as a kid. I genuinely was. And I'm just like, what the fuck is that? Me wondering if I'm like remembering like learning about life as a simulation from like a past life or something. I don't know what the fuck that was as a child, but I was terrified of it. But then again, I was really scared of a lot of random things. Okay, so I don't know. But quantum immortality is that when you die in a timeline, you shift into a different timeline where you just continue on normally. And this has always freaked me out. I've always thought that as a kid. I've always been like, what if I just am dead and I just like am continuing on and making all of this up in my head? Obviously I didn't like think of parallel universes at the time, but that is a pretty popular theory that I don't know if I think is true because it scares me. And I used to think about it a lot when it came to like dead relatives. Like I was like, well, what if like they just jumped to another universe where they're still living and their life just goes on? It just creates all these little universes where slightly different things happen and the outcome ends up being different overall. Girl, it freaks me out. So the theory of quantum immortality has been going on for a very long time. It comes from the 1950s by physicist Hugh Everett, and he, in simple terms, basically said that every possible outcome of every event happens, each in its own branching universe. So when you flip a coin, in one universe you get heads, in the other you get tails. In one universe, you almost get hit by a car and you are sitting there like freaking out, being like, oh my god, I almost got hit by a car. In the other universe, you dead. You know? I don't know. I don't like it. And the theory about quantum immortality is that it basically continues indefinitely, which means that even though people around you will die and like you exist in a world where like death is a thing, you yourself as your person, only like for you, keep living forever. I don't know. I'm literally scared of this and I think about it all the time. And there's so many different like aspects of this theory that genuinely freak me out. And to a lot of physicists, quantum immortality is less of a pseudoscience and more logical than we may even think. And I don't like that, but it's basically in quantum mechanics, the observer effect says that the act of observation can influence the outcome of the event. So basically every possible outcome still happens, but you only experience one of them. And that's like on the timeline that you're in. I don't know. It's a little trippy, but it does freak me out. And it's weird to me that I've been like imagining this and getting scared about this theory since I was a child. Like that's odd in my opinion. But again, I don't know if it's just because undiagnosed OCD. Okay. In other words, which this freaks me out, but also gives you a little bit of a sense of comfort, but then not really because then everyone around you will be gone. But in other words, you never experience being dead because dead people don't experience anything. Your mind will just always continue to find a branch where it survives. So I hate that. Yeah, I actually fucking hate that. I do. And a lot of people think that this could be, and I feel like it's been a recent TikTok trend where people will post videos being like, I saw my grandpa getting shoes today, which is weird because he's been dead since 2018 or something like that. And it's like someone who looks exactly like their dead relative. And people believe that these are the timelines crossing over and existing in the same moment, even though they contradict themselves. And then once again, separating. And I just think it's such a damn interesting theory, but I hate it. I hate it. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this because this has been something that's been in my head for 27 years and I just haven't been able to like verbalize it very much other than to my parents who probably thought I was insane. So I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. All right, the last theory I want to talk about has to do with mythical creatures and the fact that I think that they are real. And there is a very specific reason as to why I think legends like vampires or mermaids or fairies, all of that stuff, ghosts, even supernatural creatures, aliens. The reason I think these things are real and like the biggest evidence to me is the fact that these have been stories for centuries. There have been stories from all over the world about depicting vampires, mermaids, fairies, unicorns, all in the same way, even though there was no social media, obviously. There was no real way of people contacting people from somewhere across the freaking world. So it's strange to me that there have been stories written by people who have never met each other, never known each other, lived in completely different places that saw the same thing, like a mermaid. I stand by the fact that that's weird because I've been saying this forever. Like, how else are we finding these things that don't exist allegedly and talking about them in folklore from completely different places where people have never met each other, never known each other? Is that not insane to you? I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but the thought of like vampire folklore, because mermaid, I guess like you could say like, oh, coming up with something that's like half fish, half human, like that's not that crazy. But vampires, where the hell do people come up with that? And why were they talking about it on opposite sides of the world at the same time and depicting vampires the same way? How do they do that if it's not real? You're just saying that these people just happen to imagine the same mythical creature that has the same behaviors? No, I'm not accepting that. I don't believe that could be possibly true. And I need to hear your guys' thoughts on this because it is something that I have found to be interesting. And anytime someone like doesn't believe in mermaids, this is what I go to. I say this. And the fact that like 95% of the ocean is unexplored, like who the hell knows what's there? The fact that there are stories of people who have seen mermaids from a completely different region than another person who's depicting them in the exact same way. And again, there's no possible way that these people would ever know each other or read each other's literature because it was like the 18 freaking hundreds. It genuinely drives me crazy because it has to be true. I've always believed this, so I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Anyway, that is it for today's video. I had low-key a lot more written down, so if you guys want me to do another part of this series and talk about different conspiracy theories I'm too scared to believe, let me know in the comments below and let me know some of your theories you're too scared to believe because I love reading them. But anyway, that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram and subscribe for new videos every week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.